What's up everyone, Subterranean here, and today we're going to learn how to make this sound. Very subdued synth sounds similar to these have been used heavily by a lot of very popular producers like Metro Boomin and others in that sort of modern trap production style. But this is a very versatile sound, and you could use this for basically any genre of music that you can think of. So we're going to start by opening up Electra, and like always we're going to initialize the patch so we have a blank slate to work with. I got this plugin pretty recently, so I was actually a little bit confused on how you initialize the patch. I thought that you would have to go up to the File tab and then initialize it from there like a lot of other synths. But on Electra, to initialize the patch, you're going to want to go to the Init tab right here, and then you'll want to click that, and then click Reset All for that blank slate. And like always, there will be a link in the description box below where you can download this full Ableton project file, along with the preset for Electra, so if you don't have Ableton, you can just throw this preset in Electra and throw some effects on it, and then you'll be good to go. So, now that we have our patch initialized, we're going to start with our first oscillator. We're going to click on our wavetable selector right here, and we're going to want to choose WT Bell, so we have that nice natural bell sound. Now, whenever you're using a wavetable in Electra, the pulse width knob actually becomes a wavetable position knob. I'm going to scroll through the wavetable position, and I'm going to see if I can find a sound which I like. I think we'll go with 41. That works pretty well. Let's also take the oscillator 1 volume and turn it down a bit to make way for the other two oscillators, which we're going to turn on in just a second. I think we'll go with 50. That works pretty well. Now we're going to turn on oscillator 2, and we're going to leave this oscillator on the default wavetable of VA Trisaw, but let's actually take our pulse width knob and move it over. I think we'll put it all the way to the left at 100 so we have a triangle sound. Let's also take the volume and turn that down as well. I think we'll put it at the same level as oscillator 1 at halfway, 50%. And that works well. And this is sounding kinda cool, but I think the pitch is a little bit too low. Let's tweak with the octave knob, see if we find a sound that we like. And that's way too high. I think we'll go for 1 octave up. Now let's turn on oscillator 3. We're gonna set this oscillator to be an ultra saw, and this is something that is pretty unique to Electra, is you don't need to increase the unisons on a regular saw wave to create that classic trance super saw sound. You can just load up an ultra saw, and there are several unique settings you can choose from which give you very interesting takes on that classic detuned sound. So let's scroll through these really quick, see if we find a good one. I think we'll go with multi-noise, and we'll leave the pulse width knob right here at 0, just in the middle. I think we'll turn the octave up to 1 here as well. There's one small tweak I'm going to make to oscillator 2. I'm going to take the tone. This knob is sort of like a subtle EQ. You can bring out the higher frequencies in the sound or sort of dim them with this knob. A lot of times it doesn't make a huge difference, but I do like to tweak with it. So let's see if we can get a good sound here with oscillator 2, because it sounds a little bit too dark for me. And I think we'll put it right here at 57. It just brings out that triangle wave a little bit more. Now we're going to take our ultra saw, and I think we should turn down the volume of this a pretty significant amount. 28% will be good. It's not distracting from our first two wavetables, it's just adding a little bit of grit, and I think that works really nicely. Now let's go over to our filter. We're going to set this to be a low pass 24 decibels, and let's play with the cutoff knob, see if we get a sound that we like. In my little example track, I had the cutoff modulating from a lower value to a higher one, but I think right here, we'll just put it at 369. If you're going to be playing a lot of high notes with this synth, you might want to put the cutoff at a higher level to start out with, but this will be good for now. Now, let's go over to the volume envelope right down here, and we're going to turn the sustain down so we have a sound that decays in volume over time. I think we'll increase that decay a bit. 0.24 seconds will do the trick. Let's also do the same thing for the release, so we don't have an abrupt ending when we play shorter notes. We'll go to 0.30 seconds. Now let's go over to our master effects right here, and we're going to throw on some reverb. For my sounds, I usually like to use Ableton's reverb, but there are a couple plugins which have really nice sounding inbuilt reverb, and Electra is one of them. I really like the reverb that this plugin provides, so we're going to be using it. Let's set this to be a hall reverb. We're going to leave the size at the default of 28 milliseconds. I think it sounds good there. Let's tweak with the mix. And I don't think this actually needed tweaking. It sounded pretty good where it was, at about 33 or 34. Now let's go down to our insert effects panel. We're going to set this to be an ensemble. This is sort of like a large chorus effect. Let's turn the speed up a bit. I'm thinking about 66%. We'll turn the depth down right here. I think we'll go with 34%. And we'll turn the mix down because we don't want this sound to be swamped in a chorusy effect. We only want a bit of it. About 52 for the mix. Now we're almost done with our sound in Electra2. There's only two very small things I'm going to do here. The first thing is I'm going to go over to our sound panel, and I'm going to turn the volume up to 50. That's something that's not really necessary to do, seeing how you can turn up the track volume in Ableton right there. I'm just setting the volume at the same level I had it at when I first made this sound, just to sort of keep everything consistent. And one very small tweak that I actually think makes a pretty substantial difference is we're going to go over to the settings tab right here, and we're going to go over to micro tune. We're going to change it from analog light to analog heavy. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to emulate an analog sound more strongly. I like this effect a lot. It makes it sound a little bit more natural, a little bit more human, and obviously kind of retro, which is pretty cool. This is what it sounds like with the analog heavy setting. And if we turn it back to analog light, not a huge difference, but I really liked the effect that it had on this sound, even if it is somewhat subtle. So now we're done with Electra2. Now we're going to move on to the external effects, and I'm going to delete these right now because I want to recreate them from scratch. So we're going to add on just two effects. The first one we're going to add is going to be a ping pong delay. We're going to set this to be at 2, a pretty fast value for a delay. And that's a bit too strong for me, so let's turn down the feedback and dry wet. Something pretty subtle, we'll do 29%. And we'll also make the dry wet a fair bit more subtle too. We'll actually make this lower than the feedback. We'll go with 26%. And for our last effect, we're going to throw on an EQ8. And all we're going to do here is we're going to take our first band, we'll change it over to a low cut ×4, and we're going to cut off some of those low frequencies that are muddying up the sound a bit. We'll go for about 120 hertz, I think. And then we'll take band 4, which is on a high shelf by default. We'll set the frequency to be at about 5.79 kilohertz. So you can just type in 5790, and there you go. And let's increase that gain. Let's turn up the cutoff here so we can actually hear the high-end frequencies. 5.95 maybe. And I think that works really well. And there we have our sound. So that was my tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video and leave a comment as it really helps us out. And please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.